And the Milwaukee Bucks got eliminated. No shade, but I am wearing my Bulls hat. You know, Giannis Antetokounmpo, was asked by an interviewer,
I'm curious for you. Do you view this season as a failure?
Oh my God. Okay, because I'm not that up. You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Okay. Do you get a promotion every year on your job? No, right? So every year you work is a failure. Yes or no? No. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal, right? Which is to get a promotion, to be able to take care of your family, to be able, I don't know, provide a house for them or take care of your parents. You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success, And if you've never, I don't want to make it personal. So there's always steps to it, Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure? That's what you're telling me. There's no failure in sports. There's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's going to win. And this year, somebody else is going to win. Simple as that. We're going to come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have a 10-day stretch with playing bad basketball. And hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one. Sorry that I didn't want to make it personal because you asked me the same question last year, and last year I was in the right mind space to answer the question back.
Waykme as the OG of the crew today. You know what I mean? Let you go first on this. Seeing the interviewer's question and Giannis's response. What did you think about the response?
First, I got to respond to that OG comment you
I
just.
mean,
That's the first thing, player. Settle down over there.
I mean,
Not happy
I'm respecting
about
my
that.
elders. I'm trying to.
Shots fired.
Hands
So
up.
maybe it's a pistol. Send me that NRA hat, man. Send me that NRA hat. I'm gonna sign up with you guys, man. So I think several things came to mind. I think it was a very passionate response, right? It was on key. And I think that, his response filled with the analogies he used was really, really dope. He made you think. Unfortunately, they would have liked the number 1 seed. I don't follow basketball too much, fellas, so jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Milwaukee was like the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, and the expectations was higher than just making the playoffs. So in terms of the failure comment and how he responded, I think he was far off, right, in terms of that, because, yeah, you were expected to at least go to the finals, with the team that they had, with the season that they had. And again, the analogies made me, initially look at it and say, damn, he deserves a participation trophy. And, that's the response that, some of these reporters should be getting when they ask dumbass questions like that. They should be, giving questions or responses that make them go, oh, I'm sorry. And the fact that he was able to emotionally respond that way, remember the fact that that reporter asked him the same question the previous year before, throw it back at him and still give an educated response. I really appreciated it. But 2 things stuck out to me. He used Michael Jordan. He used the Bulls. He used Michael Jordan, right? That was bad, because I think if you ask Michael Jordan the same question, the response would be, hell yeah, I failed. It's either I bring a chip home or I don't. That's it. So maybe if you ask LeBron, and that's my favorite player right now, but if you ask LeBron, it would be more like a Giannis response, or a KD, it would be more like a Giannis response, but not Michael Jordan. That's like asking, rest in peace, Kobe. You might as well ask Kobe that question.
The same thing.
The other takeaway for me, and this is unrelated to that question, but the fact that the Bucks fired Coach Bud after that, And apparently he was going through, I think his brother had just passed away 2 years before. So you
during the
bring
series,
home
I
the
believe.
chip. You bring home the chip. I think, the GM and the organization is at fault for allowing him to coach, knowing the mental state he was in. I think that's the bigger picture. But in this society where you win or you get fired, immediately in that, in that realm, it's it is what it is, So that's pretty much. And then he mentioned something about 50 years, 50 years you got to take steps.
Well, so because he was saying the Milwaukee Bucks didn't win since
Right.
71 to 2021.
Yeah, so he said 50 years you got to take steps to build. What was that? Baby steps? What type
Yeah.
of steps? You tell your fans that. Tell the paying fans for 50 years that they're not going to see a
Hold on,
championship
guys.
team for the next 50 years and see how much buy-in you get. See how many seats you get filled with that response. So I understood, but I think it was out of context.
Yeah. Rel, what was your thoughts on that?
So I mean, I understand a lot of different sides. I think there's layers to it. So for one, to allude to what Mr. Butler just said,
There we go with that old people shit again.
So just think about it theoretically. There's no real world where there's 29 real failures every year, right? You know what I'm saying? Like every team wasn't going to win the championship. Everybody can't walk into that and be like, oh man, this was a failure, because every year there's only one team that didn't fail, only one team that had a good season, and that's not realistic. However, but when you come from a place and from the prominence that they had all season, the way it's set up, yeah, for y'all, yes, it was a failure. But what I think the emotion comes from him is not realizing that failure is part of the game. Yeah, y'all failed, but that don't mean y'all dead. It was whack the way it went down, and and yes, it was a failure. But does that mean now that all of y'all are crap and we should never believe in the Bucks again? I think he was taking that too personal, because I think honestly he was feeling a little of that in his heart. He was feeling ashamed, and he was feeling like, damn, I let it down. So when you not secure within yourself and you in that moment, like, yeah, I fucked up, and then somebody asks you that, now instead of like responding with like, yeah, it was a failure, we didn't meet I'm fighting back with fire now, because I'm secure about myself. That's kind of how I saw that passion coming from, more or less, and being ashamed, and that was the way it manifested. But I do think it's whack though that he asked the same dude asked him that last year. Like, I mean, it's just like, bro, like, what do you like? What like, at the end of the day, all y'all that sit and ask these questions, what are y'all failures? Like,
right.
If what how are y'all measured? Every year, do y'all get the awards you're supposed to get every year? Are you covering every event that you're supposed to get? I mean, it happens sometimes and it doesn't, even for teams that it should. So I think more or less he just was probably, especially in that moment, he had just lost, and he got a little emotional behind it. And like you say, yeah, it might, like Michael Jordan, yeah, he played 15, won 6, did he fail 9? I mean, it's like, I mean, if you ask him, he probably say, yeah, I did fail. But I think Michael Jordan also knew too that once he learned how to win, he probably realized that, like, we weren't set up to win all those prior years. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way we were going about it was, if this is how we win, then yeah, the way that was set up, that wasn't it. So now, after he learned how to win, if let's say he didn't win 4, 5, and 6, but he won 1, 2, and 3, like, then it's then like, yeah, we didn't fucked up. Like, it's really a failure. But I just think more or less it was just him and his feelings about losing, and just being asked the same stupid question 2 years in a row by the same dude.
Jared, what's your thoughts on that?
Alexa, play "Emotional" by Carl Thomas.
They shooting. Hey, look.
Made you look though, but no, it's like, yes, the panel so far has made great points. I ain't gonna sugarcoat that shit. Yo, you're a big baby, bro. Like that's all I was. And yes, I'm not a fan of Giannis like that. But beyond that, it's like he has to understand the context of what is sports or what is the sport. You will play, and who said it best? Herman Evers. You
Play
play
to
to
win the game. Yeah.
game. You play to win the game. You are not just the number one seed. You're the number one overall seed. You had the best record in basketball. So yeah, expectations are a lot higher. Yes, that is a failure. It's not a failure for the Houston Rockets to go 15 wins or whatever. They knew they were a dud. Nobody gives a shit about that. That's not a failure. A failure for those lower tier teams is not getting the number one seed. You know, in terms of for the lottery.
First pick.
Yeah, first pick for the lottery. That's a failure. Not getting that, like, or not seeing progression. You understand when you're a championship team with championship aspirations and you don't get that, that's a failure. How do you learn from failure is on you.
100%.
So him being emotional, yeah, I get it. He was in the moment. He was, and then I love how he said, you know, I don't want to get personal. Nigga, you were personal.
Yeah, you were taking it OG personal,
You
bro.
were personal. Like, if I was that reporter, I'd have pulled the strap out too. Like, bro, I'm doing my job. You may not like how I'm doing my job, but I'm doing my job. I need to ask you, because if I don't ask you that question, guarantees somebody else in that room is going to ask you the same question. Mm-hmm. Was this season a failure, being that you, the number one seed overall, did not even get past the second round, get past the first round? You couldn't even get 2 games. Well, they got 2 games in. That's it. You got 2 games in that entire 7-game series. So ain't nobody trying to hit. Ain't nobody trying to cry for you, whatever, all that stuff. Like, this dude went full DJ Envy on that shit. Like, this shit was crazy. Like, and then, you know, firing Coach Bud, you know, like, the man got you a championship. At the same time, look, loyalty isn't everything. Because Toronto did the same shit twice. Toronto had 2 Coach of the Year coaches and then fired them right there. Like, Nick Nurse got y'all a championship, got fired. And, like, you know, you have to understand the expectations of what your team really is. Like, you're not winning a championship with Toronto. So I don't know what Toronto's aspirations really were in that. Maybe they felt they looked bad against Chicago. But at the same time, you were at home and you blew that. So, you know, like, I don't know how you fire him. Doc Rivers getting fired, I can understand that. He's had multiple seasons of failures. You know, like, how Elton Brand kept his job is ridiculous after all these years. But that's not here nor there. But still, and when it comes to the Bucks, you know, it's like, after you won the championship, y'all have been on the pedestal. So yeah, you have to understand what failure is. Yes, Jordan has failed in his career. He hasn't failed often, but when he started to learn how to get this shit together, yeah, he went on a monster run. He never lost in the finals, never went to game 7. He did what he had to do. Like, that's what a champion does. That's what somebody who believes in himself does. Giannis was crying all for Kobe, you know, when, you know, and then he'll quote Kobe and all this stuff. Nigga, Kobe would have looked at him like, word. Like, Kobe would have looked at him with that stone face, like, that's not a failure. Kobe's favorite words was "job not done." So if the job wasn't done, that's gonna be a failure to him.
Right.
So, like, he trying to, like, skate past the whole thing, trying to pass the buck off to somebody else because he's emotional in his feelings, and then, you know, want to make people, you know, want to make people feel bad for him and stuff like that. Hey, get that shit out of here. Like, bro, you failed. Get over it. Come back next year and work from there. That's what it is.
I think, though, you know, part of it is the context, right? You know, you mentioned a couple things in your response. It's how you phrase that question, right? And the fact that he asked them the same question 2 years in a row, you know, I think that part of that played into why Giannis responded the way he did. And, you know, personality plays a large part, right? I guarantee no reporter would ask a Jordan that same question, right? Like that, you know, phrase it the way he did. He might phrase it differently.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know, the phrasing, hey, you know, is
But
this
I
season
think
a
the
failure,
phrasing
right?
is specific. Is this season a failure?
Right.
Again, right? But to my recollection, I don't recall, you know, any of the other elite superstars. Like, can you imagine someone asking Barkley that question? Can you imagine someone?
I mean, I'd have to go through a bunch of interviews,
I
but I
don't
think
think
that's a common
like
question.
that. And again, it's all on the phrasing of the question, how it's received. Maybe Giannis, and he proved it. He's emotional. He proved that he's emotional, and that's why the dude went at him the way he did. I think it would have been phrased differently. You know, it's similar to us when we size a person up. You think about what you're going to say to that person before you say it. You know, this person sized Giannis up and he knew what he wanted to say. But I don't think he would have said that same question verbatim to a Barkley, to a
I think he would have.
Kobe,
I mean,
to
I
a
think it's
to a
very
Mike Jordan.
specific. It's he didn't ask him, is your career a failure?
Or are
Is
you
your
a
life
failure?
a failure?
I did. So
Are
again,
you
right?
wait.
No, hold on, but again,
Hold on. He asked him, is this season would you consider this season a failure? I
but we're
don't think you
talking
can
about someone
phrase it
that's
any other
emotional.
way. I don't
But
think
we're
there is
talking
any other.
again. So we're talking about someone that's very emotional. His response was emotional.
But you've also said that's the league today. The guys
Say it
you
again.
said Giannis, you said KD, you said LeBron,
Right.
and
I
then you
said
said
those
in
players.
contrast to a Jordan and a Kobe. That's the league today. So there's no way to phrase it any other way to the players today. There's no other way to ask it because it is what it is. Is this?
So I'm not saying that the question. I'm not saying that the question was wrong. I think the question definitely held weight.
Yeah.
And going back to what Jared said, I thought they only won one game. Did it go 7?
No.
Did it go to the 7?
That it didn't. I know that.
Go to 7.
Yeah.
It did, right? So that adds more credence to that question, right? You're the number one. See, I didn't know they was overall number one. I didn't know all of that, right? But the reality is, if you're the number one overall team with the best record in the league, and you get beat in the first round, and you don't even win 3 games,
right?
That's even worse.
Yeah.
You know? And I look, timing is everything. Dude was emotional, like we all said. He was emotional. His response was emotional.
Yeah.
So I just don't. I think it was more behind the scenes with that particular interviewer, right, or reporter.
I don't think it was more to it.
He was
I think,
definitely mad.
Like you said earlier, I think it's the league today. I think it's the players today, because we've seen
agree.
LeBron walk out of interviews. We've seen players like have these type of response. We've seen this often. So I don't think the report. I think like Jared said, the reporter was doing his job, and like Rel said, like it's a failure for the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, he didn't say, is your career, do you consider your career or your life, or it's just specifically this season. You can fail this season. And like, again, I think like Rel said, like, the barometer for what is failure depends on the team, the situation. And when a team has an expectation, it's just like, somebody dropping an album, hey, this artist is expected to sell such and such copies. Oh, they didn't. That's a flop. We call it a flop.
Right.
But if someone is low key sells just as many, oh, that's a success. So the scale, it varies. So when you're the number one seed, when you just won a couple seasons ago, top player, you one of the faces of the league, there's an expectation that y'all got bumped in the first round. It's a failure. It's a failure.
They got bumped in 5?
They won one game.
They won one game. Wow.
This season, the 2022-23 season is a failure.
And what's interesting too is, I think if you did back, let's say in the late 90s, if you was asking like Pat Ewing these questions, Charles Malone these questions, Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, all of them, even though they probably would have been a little perturbed and had attitude, but they would have told you
this season,
like, they would have been like, this is not what was supposed to happen. Like
Right.
this is this they wouldn't have been happy about it, but they would have said they wouldn't have been like, well, what do you well, a few years ago, Mike lost it. Did he fail then? Like, they would never would have said,
Right.
especially because all of them was losing to him at the time. So that would have been even crazier. But, but I think they would have took that on the chin a little more for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just like, you know what? I'm a man up because I was in a position to do something great, and I've been dominant. Like, like the Bucks was killing the Bucks, and they are right now still a very good team. So the way from what was set up, what was going to be ahead of you, really theoretically, from the way you had played all season. I know the playoffs are different, but the only team really that played y'all that tough, you should have had a real issue with was Boston. Y'all should have been pretty much just walking through cats until y'all had to face them. And then you faced the eighth seed, the seed that barely got in.
Right.
Had to play 2 to get in.
Right.
And then they come in and beat y'all like it. It didn't even look tough for them.
Right.
So you got to internalize that. You got to say, yeah, we fell short. This was a failure. It was.
And it's
so
okay.
Fast forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward. You just mentioned, the 8 seed. They beat you guys, and they beat them convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
But they also beat the Knicks convincingly.
They
and
did.
Now they're beating up on Boston convincingly.
They are, 100%.
Right? So, again, I'm not that much into basketball, so I'm throwing it at the panel, Paul, if you don't mind. I just want to know what's going on and what's happening with Miami. They had a late
see what happened. See, this is what it is. Miami shows you is a perfect example of how culture and mindset can supersede a lot of things. Pat Riley only signs a certain type of player on the team, like regardless. Like, if you look top to bottom, they team ain't full of bums, but they don't have immaculately skilled players, like they don't really have that, but they have people that's gonna do what they need to do every night. And they fighting, they're playing smart. You don't have to worry about, is anybody gonna miss the assignment? Is this one taking a night off? They're gonna make a game of it every night. And then their attitude toward the game is, we're going all out. We're not, there's nothing that we're not doing. We're gonna do everything it takes to win. So to beat them, if you don't have their mentality, your advantage and talent has to be massive to overcome that. And when they started against Milwaukee, Giannis wasn't there. Giannis being played to like game 3, I think. So they started now without Giannis. Even with those players they have, they couldn't mess with Miami. So now they start behind the 8 ball. He comes back, he can't make that much of a difference like that. Then you mentioned the Knicks. So the Knicks have played the Heat pretty well in the regular season, but then it goes and shows, here's the playoffs, when there's nobody. Jalen Brunson was definitely had the right mindset, and he was definitely down for the cause. But there was no other player on the Knicks who was ready for that. And when and that's why Jalen Brunson the whole time, everybody else shrunk. RJ Barrett shrunk. Julius Randle shrunk. Everybody became smaller versions of themselves in that series. And to speak to the heart though, and we still won 2 games. But Boston, as we see, Boston in this series is like to me. Boston is like that pretty dude in high school, whose parents bought him everything, had all the Jordan, the fly gear. But as soon as somebody wanted to come and rob him, he folded and he took all that shit from him. That's what it looks like, Miami and Boston to me.
That's the analogy, bro.
Yeah, like a shiny new toy, and they came through and was like,
this is what happens when I'm on a panel full of Brooklyn dudes.
Yeah, it looked like Miami was like, yo, get off this block. I don't want to see y'all around here again. That's what it looks like happening to Boston from that's what it looks like. That's when I watch those games, that's the feeling I'm getting off this. It's like, yo, y'all, who let y'all on this court? Like, yeah. Pay y'all taxes. I'm gonna pay y'all. Say y'all owe me for coming around here. That's what it looks like. And that's the Boston is like, they have no heart, bro. They whole soul got taken. Like, and that's a bad for me. Giannis and the Bucks look way better than the Celtics, and they've been out the playoffs. Like at least when they played Miami, even though they lost, Milwaukee ain't look like chumps or some people who didn't want to play. But Boston look like they don't really want to play. Boston's like, yo, we got to play, so we're gonna come out here. So,
At the time we're recording this, Miami is up 3-0 in the series against Boston, and Denver is also up 3-0 in the series against the Lakers.
Yep.
So by the time everybody's seeing this or hearing this,
yeah, the next round is probably gonna be starting. The finals Saturday night.
you know what I'm saying? It might be some speech. We may have to follow up on that. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say, the conversation continues. Because that definitely might be some more to talk about. Again, Jared, you only got a couple minutes, so
I know.
Don't take the whole 5.
I know, but 3 things right quick. When it came to Miami, well, 2 things about Miami, 1 thing about something else. But we talked about it a little bit, me and you, Paul. But imagine, I'm pretty sure people have heard stories about people who were legally dead for a couple of minutes, and after that, they started living.
Yeah.
Like they started their life, like there is no tomorrow. Miami was that team. Bulls almost knocked them out. Because remember, lost the first one against Atlanta, and the Bulls almost knocked them out. And then they were almost dead. And then after that, they have been unstoppable. So they have been that team that has almost dead. And ever since then, shit shut down. Like they started living. So this is why they're having this mindset. Boston is a surprise. Mikal Bridges said that because he said he wanted to pick my Boston in the series, but they be bullshitting. And he even said like they should have, that Philly series should have never went to 7. In this series, like, at that time they were down 2-0. He was saying that they should be winning the series, but they be bullshitting. And then one last thing, about Giannis and stuff. Everybody's jobs are different. They're set up differently. I don't go to work saying I want to be the best MTA player, employee of the year, shit like that. Right. Like I don't get that. That's not a failure. I don't give a fuck. My job is just to come in, do my job, get paid, go home. That is it. That's most people's expectation. People want to go for the gold, go for the awards, go for the company, trips and shit like that. That's on them. But if you have that mindset to do that and you don't get that, that is a failure. For that reporter, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to. I'm pretty sure his thing is, I'm just trying to go to work. I'm trying to feed my family. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm successful. If I'm not getting top writer of the year, I'm pretty
real quick to your point, what's success for that reporter? Getting a soundbite from.
I'm about to say getting that from that's
why
you asked
to go viral.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's success for him. So he's successful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you hear his voice you heard it. That the next day you heard his voice all day on SportsCenter. All day long.
So that interview wasn't a failure for him because he had a viral clip, and they're gonna say so and so from the such and such times or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So now he's known as the guy who asked Giannis this 2 years in a row and got Giannis to be emotional. Success. I won. You know what I'm saying? And that's his barometer of success. You know what I'm saying? So he won. In that meeting between them two, and that's what reporters are there to do. That's why there's Marshawn Lynch's and Rasheed Wallace's and things that have those moments.
Yeah.
They know that win, lose, or draw, right after the game, there's microphones in your face. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right after. They also do it. The coaches are getting interviewed during the games. You guys are down by 30. What are you going to do to change that?
Exactly. What's going on?
You know what I'm saying? I love Greg Popovich and them be like, we're going to score more points. We're going to try to score some more points. Like, to give you because that's the thing. And those reporters, especially nowadays with the internet and 24-hour news cycle of sports with ESPN and stuff, it's about clickbait. It's about going viral. It's about the sound bites and things that's going to continue. Who got the reaction out of the player. That's what it's for. And they know because that's why they do it right after the game. You're emotional, you're happy. That moment when Kevin Garnett said anything's possible, you know what I'm saying? There was somebody right there with the microphone, you know what I'm saying? Sideline reporters, post-game reporters. so on and so forth. So
have players mic'd up. You have players mic'd up, so you can hear, like, when they come back from commercial break, you hear like the in-game chat. So everybody has a mic.
exactly, like Waykme has said at one point, I think it's been said numerous times. The players today a little more emotional, and again, I mean, emotion isn't a bad thing. It's not always, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think, Giannis got to understand this season, every season, there is a goal for every season. You know what I'm saying? Your career would have a bigger picture goal, but for the specific, that's what I said, specifically for the season, is a failure, dog. Take the L. You know what I'm saying? We grew up in an era where you fought, you took an L, you dust yourself off. All right, but I fought though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you can learn from the failure. You can learn from the L, and you can come back. And that's what happened.